Buckle up, it's about to get bumpy. Let's be honest, when most people think of unions, they picture burly dudes in hard hats shaking down corporations, or like your plumber trying to squeeze an extra $20 out of you. But the truth is, unions and the labor boards meant to keep things fair play a much bigger role in our lives than we realize. Imagine a world where those things just vanished. Poof! Gone like a Jeffrey Epstein client list in a bonfire. What do you think happens next? Do corporations suddenly find the goodness in their hearts and start showering their employees with gold and unlimited vacation days? Spoiler alert, they absolutely do not. Today, we're diving headfirst into this dystopian yet surprisingly plausible scenario. We're talking about the very real consequences of a world without unions, and trust me folks, it's not pretty. Let's start with the obvious. Without unions, that workers lose their single biggest bargaining chip. Collective bargaining, that beautiful thing that lets workers band together and demand fair wages, safe working conditions and benefits that don't make you want to cry, goes right out the window. Suddenly you're not negotiating with a corporation as part of a united front. You're just one tiny cog in a giant faceless machine, desperately hoping the CEO is having a good day when they decide whether or not to cut your health insurance. And let's not forget about the chilling effect this has on future generations of workers. With no historical precedent for fair treatment, new employees are starting from scratch, forced to accept whatever scraps their corporate overlords deem worthy of tossing their way. Now you might be thinking, okay, but we still have labor laws, right? Surely those will protect us. And to that I say, bless your naive little heart. Look, laws without enforcement are basically just strongly worded suggestions. Without a labor board to investigate complaints, mediate disputes, and generally keep corporations in check, those workplace safety regulations, overtime rules, and anti-discrimination policies might as well be written on toilet paper for all the good they'll do you. Suddenly those unsafe working conditions you used to complain about become the new normal. Forced overtime becomes the norm, and if you dare to speak out against discrimination, well, you better hope you enjoy the taste of unemployment, because you're about to get very well acquainted. Chapter 3, From Negotiations to Molotov Cocktails, the Rise of Workplace Unrest. Here's the thing about desperate people. They tend to get a little unruly. When workers are backed into a corner with no legal recourse, no union representation, and no hope for a better future, things have a tendency to get messy. Think wildcat strikes, walkouts, and protests erupting across industries. And without a structured framework for negotiations and conflict resolution, these disputes can escalate quickly. Remember those dystopian YA novels where teenagers are forced to fight to the death for scraps of food? Yeah, it's starting to feel a lot like that. Chapter 4, The Rich Get Richer, the Poor Get Screwed, Economic Inequality on Steroids. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, income inequality. With no unions to advocate for fair wages, corporations are free to squeeze every last penny out of their workforce like a thirsty tourist at a desert gas station. Wages stagnate, the middle class shrinks faster than a pair of cheap jeans in a hot dryer, and the gap between the haves and the have-nots widens into a chasm so vast you'd need a SpaceX rocket to cross it. Congratulations everyone, we're officially living in a real-life episode of Squid Game, only with less tracksuits and more crippling debt. Chapter 5, Government Band-Aids and Corporate Lip Service, the Half-Hearted Solutions. Now, some of you might be holding out hope that the government will step in and save the day. And sure, some countries might try to implement new labor protections, but let's be real. These are often watered-down, ineffective measures designed to appease the masses without actually challenging the status quo. Others might see the void left by unions and sense an opportunity for some good old-fashioned corporate self-regulation. But let's not kid ourselves, folks. These voluntary initiatives are about as effective as a chocolate fireguard. The sad truth is, without the constant pressure and accountability that unions provide, corporations will always prioritize profit over people. So there you have it, a glimpse into the bleak dystopian hellscape that awaits us if unions and labor boards go the way of the dodo. It's a world where workers are stripped of their power, their rights, and their dignity, all in the name of corporate greed. It's a world where the American dream becomes about as attainable as a unicorn riding a flying pig through a rainbow made of $100 bills. The bottom line is this: unions aren't perfect, but they're a vital part of a functioning society that values fairness, equality, and the well-being of its workers. So the next time you hear someone complaining about unions, remind them of what's at stake. Because, trust me, a world without unions is not a world any of us want to live in.